It's time to take a ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive with our co-hosts, Alan Saunders and Zachary Smith.
Welcome into another episode of Steelers Afternoon Drive. I'm Zachary Smith. That is Alan Saunders. I am still workshopping a way to work getting the van into the show. But Alan, how are we doing?
Doing all right. Getting through it today. Got some.
Well, yeah,
I'm not feeling great, but we're working through it.
We're working through it. You still put out a morning rush. You're still here right now. I got to commend it. A true working man after 7 videos, podcasts, hits, whatever you want to call them, yesterday. Not a traditional Tomlin Tuesday to discuss here, Alan. Some of the players obviously talking and stuff today, practice. I don't know that anything like super interesting came out of that based off just me following along on social media and stuff. But if there was anything that caught your eye or ear, feel free to bring it up.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think a lot of the questions seem to be about Calvin Austin, what's going to happen with his situation. Seems like he's going to miss some time. Arthur Smith said it won't just be Roman Wilson. Seems to suggest it'll be a bit of a group effort. I think it's fair to include Scotty Miller and Ben Skoranek in that. Scotty Miller also said he's going to return punts, which is kind of what we thought. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think anything groundbreaking is coming out of the bye week ever. Danny Smith talked a little bit about their decision to punt into the end zone, which confirmed that it was on purpose, which
netted them 19 yards. Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, I don't get it.
I can't even begin to explain how foolish I think that was. But
hey, you know what though? This is a good part of the show to clip right here for the people that say that we are never critical of anything that happened. There's people on both sides. I feel like I looked at the comments today from this morning rush. It's everybody saying you're being way too negative, and then there's people that say that we're not critical of anything that happens with any player or coach. So this is a good part right here. Clip this.
Yeah, I was just bafflingly bad. And then still don't understand that. And then I feel like Danny I guess
him and Eddie Faulkner both talked about Caleb Johnson.
About the kickoff return. He said he addressed it in the film session. Obviously, they're not putting him back out there. I feel like that was kind of we've already covered all that. Do we need to talk about it more? I don't know.
Yeah, not sure who asked it or why it got brought up, but Eddie Faulkner talking about the confidence perspective of Caleb getting out there and getting some carries and having a couple nice ones. I thought was much more relevant at this point in time to me than hearing another discussion about Caleb Johnson on the kickoff from a few weeks ago now. At this point, not much else to be made about it. Friend of the program, Nick Faribaugh, as it relates to Calvin Austin, did say that he wasn't in a sling today. So I guess that's at least positive news in that direction. We'll see what to make of it. We'll see in the short and long term what that will mean for his availability. Obviously the bye week this week, but we'll see if he's going to miss any time. All right. I mean, I guess moving on from that, you guys still have questions that we did not get to yesterday. The first one that I want to get to actually, though, Alan, was a DM that I got on Twitter, and it relates to Tomlin and the coaching decision. So I feel like this is very prevalent. We've got to give my guy here, a loyal listener to Tevin Carter, brings up this. Worst thing Tomlin said is we don't live in our fears, in my opinion, because it applies to situations now that doesn't need applied to. It's not one size fits all when it comes to making a decision, in quotes, wrong. If you have a 67% chance at winning with option A, but you choose option B, that has a 58% chance, does not choosing the best make it wrong. I feel like Tomlin gets flack a lot of situations that don't necessarily have a right or wrong outcome and simply not the decision that we would make from where we're sitting. I can't recall a time where a decision directly impacted the team winning or losing a game, and I see it all the time around the league from other coaches.
There's a lot there.
Yeah.
So I think there are plenty of good reasons to take the numbers with a grain of salt when it comes to how much you should trust them, for decision making. They are based on the average of a lot of a big sample, 10, the biggest sample possible. But like, okay, let's say the Steelers get into a situation where this season where it's 4th and 10 and it's it'd be a 61-yard field goal. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and let's say the field goal ties the game, but they could win it. If they get the 4th down, they're not going to get a second possession. All right. Now that number that is going to get spit out by whoever, the 4th and 10 bot or ESPN analytics or whatever, is going to factor in an average passing offense. Now look at the Steelers' passing offense. How do you think this year's Steelers passing offense is going to do on 4th and 10? Not very good. Doesn't seem like that's in their wheelhouse. Conversely, the best kicker in the league, right? So like there's plenty of times when it makes sense for a coach to deviate from the sort of standard acceptable logic based on the talent of his team and also the way his team is playing on that particular day. Injury issue. Like Minnesota Vikings got into a 4th and 2 with the all backup offensive line and not being able to run the ball at all. I don't think they'd be going for it like they normally would in that situation. Maybe Kevin O'Connell would most of the time, but they weren't running the ball very well all day and they're playing a bunch of backup offensive linemen. That doesn't seem like a recipe for success. So I think there's plenty of reasonable times to get away from the acceptable logic. I don't think in the Steelers' case on Sunday, that was what was happening. The Steelers were running the ball better than they have all season. They were dominating the line of scrimmage. Kenny Gainwell looked like, Gale Sayers had inhabited his body for most of the game. There was no.
Did you see the thing I put out there about Kenny Gainwell?
No.
It was the first time a Steelers running back had over 125 total yards and 2+ touchdowns since 2018. James Conner did it like 5 times that year. Unbelievable. But
wow. That's crazy. That's
mm-hmm.
crazy. Yeah, I mean, so like there's there's lots of times where coaches should not pay attention to that. The Philadelphia Eagles should not care. At 4th and 1 on their own 2, they should be going for it, right? Like, who cares? Like,
yeah.
And so there's now, how often does it cost the team? I think it is overrated by the fans as to how much that stuff matters. It's very rare that you see a coaching decision make a big swing in a game in terms of a team's winning percentage.
Yeah, what was it like the Lions a couple years ago in the NFC Championship game, just kind of like living and dying by what they had done all year, and they didn't get a 4th down that they had gone for all year, and that ended up being a massive reason why they lost that game, but they went down swinging and fell on the sword that had got them there. So like even the players kind of said like, no, we backed that decision. Obviously it didn't play out in our favor this time, but it's what we've done all year. So I don't know. That's the first
there's that part of it too. Like some teams
mm-hmm.
are just good at certain things that they make it part of their identity. They practice it a lot. They do it. And that's fine,
Yeah. Well, that's, you talking about knowing your personnel, I think is like the biggest part of it to me. Personally, like big picture and just in game, knowing what you have, which is why we got a comment, and I don't know who the person was in the post game show that brought it up, but talking about like the injury issues that they had on the back end, and that they felt like that should have played in the decision to go for it as opposed to punting, because then you're putting those guys back onto the field, a depleted secondary, and that's a completely fair point to have, I think, as well. Like knowing the personnel that you have. To go back out there if you do decide to make that decision. So, but also, I think whether you get it or not, also like the confidence it instills in a group, like the offense, in my opinion, very clearly talked Tomlin into going for it the previous time when they had 3 yards to get or whatever to run it. I think he wanted to kick a field goal there and the offense talked them into it. But then I think that we both agreed, like, if you are going to go for it, that's probably not the play that you should be running. I personally would put it in Aaron's hands at that point if you are going to go. But also, I think it says something to the confidence level of those guys. I think they appreciate the opportunity to stay on the field. So something to be said about that, in my opinion, as well.
Yeah, I think I like the idea of Tomlin just saying, all right, you guys want it, go for it. I don't mind that. I don't think that's I think some people will say that's like, the coach letting the players have too much agency. I disagree. I like that about Tomlin, that if his players are really passionate about it, he'll listen to them.
Which go for it at the end too. I mean, I think that they were lobbying for the same thing there.
Yeah, maybe not to the same degree. But I agree. I think they should. I think that one was the one that they should have got. I think a field goal would have been fine. But I think
I wouldn't have been upset about them kicking a field goal. I definitely, like, I'm not gonna lie, I wanted them to go for that there, but I didn't want them to run the ball. Like I said, I wanted them to put the ball in Aaron's hands and see if he could find something there. But then like I just don't know how you go for that one, but then don't on the other. I don't know. It's just baffling to. I don't know. Like, I would love to be not a fly on the wall, I guess in this case, whatever in the headset, to understand the reasoning, the feel in game 2. I mean, that's another thing, I guess. Like, coaches, I guess, just have to go off feel sometimes, right? Like,
yeah, I mean,
Tomlin's
part
been
of
there,
it,
done that
like,
every
sometimes you
situation.
have like a play call you feel really good about, like something
Mhm.
you've been holding in your pocket that you're like, oh, this is the perfect time, let's use it. And sometimes you don't. I was talking to a coach this offseason, a head coach, who was retelling a story about a time when he wanted to go for it in a situation like that. And he turned to his offensive coordinator. His offensive coordinator said, I got nothing. I got nothing to call. Like, I don't feel good about any of these right now. Like, we've already used all the ones I liked. We already ran through a couple of these I didn't like that much. I've got nothing left in the tank. And then you're like, how if that's the way the conversation goes, how if you're the head coach, even if you wanted to go for it, how are you going to be like, no, yeah, just call one of them? Like, I think there's definitely a part of that being part of the process too.
While we're on the topic of personnel, Cliff the Dark Knight has a question about personnel. Do you think that Herbig has officially solidified himself or justified his spot as a starter on this team? I can't see how they could just immediately go back to Highsmith or at least have the same split if that's the case. I'm not saying to trade him, at least not this season, but Nick seems too good to not have in the starting lineup.
No, I do not believe that Nick Herbig has solidified himself in the starting lineup, and I do believe that as soon as Alex Highsmith is healthy, he will be back in the starting lineup.
I think the part of that that's more interesting to me is the distribution. Because now we've seen Alex suffer soft tissue injuries seemingly time and time again over the last.
Herbig has been banged up a whole bunch too.
Sure. So maybe for both of them, though, it's better to have, I'm not saying a 50-50 split, but I think that, there's closer. I think that the distribution should be different coming out of this when Highsmith is back in the fold.
I don't think it will be. I think it'll be pretty much what we have come to expect.
And take TJ into consideration for that as well, because I think Herbig has shown the capability. I don't know what your take on.
I mean, he played 50% of the team's defensive snaps last year. Now Highsmith missed some time, but
that's more than I would have guessed. I would have thought it was more like, I would have thought more like 35 or 40. That actually surprised me. It was 50%, even taking into consideration the time Alex missed.
Because he missed games too. He only played 13 games. So Alex missed some games, but I would say that around
he's still playing.
If you get Watt at 80% and Highsmith at 80% and Herbig at 40% in the games that all three play, I think you're doing very good.
I'm not saying that Cliff is part of this, but I do think largely due to injuries, people have started to underrate how good Alex Highsmith is. And I think that Nick Herbig's performance has played into that for sure. And Nick's been an awesome player. And obviously, like with a heightened role, I think the question was, is he going to hold up against the run? Done just fine there where it's not so noticeably bad. I don't think he's like a great run defender or anything like that, but it's not been a discussion point. The thing that I wanted to bring up though and get your perspective on is we have all this conversation about TJ Watt moving around, rushing from the other side. And we've said, it just doesn't look right. Very clearly he's more comfortable and that's why he likes to rush on the other side. Do you feel that way about the other two though? Do you think that Highsmith is a guy that could rush from either side? Could Herbig be in relief of TJ at times as opposed to Highsmith and it be Herbig and Highsmith?
I think Alex Highsmith is the most versatile of those guys. I think he can do pretty much anything. I think he has the deepest bag of moves. And so I think Highsmith could do anything. And I think Herbig can do a lot of things. Herbig would not be nearly as successful as Watt is in dealing with chips and double teams just because of his size. I think that would be more difficult for him. But I don't think there's any reason to like. He can play both sides. Highsmith can play both sides. Most guys can play both sides. Watt can. He's just not the same guy on the other side. I don't think there's a big drop off if you move either of those guys around.
Yeah. This is taking us back in time here. Frio J, this is a different question than we've ever gotten to. That's why I liked it. What's up, guys? I was a little bit younger when Ben got drafted. Can you guys provide any insight on to what the hype was surrounding him when he was coming out? And if the fan base wanted him or another guy to be the pick? I was also too young.
Oh, pressure's on me then.
I mean, I've said this on here before. Alan for sure knows. I know that the audience has probably grown pretty massively, maybe since the last time that I mentioned it. But I wasn't even a Steelers fan. Like originally, when Ben got drafted, I used to like just to piss my dad off, root for whoever the Steelers were playing. Like I was that kid. So yeah, I certainly really cannot weigh in on this. I actually first jersey. Eddie George, Titans jersey. Second jersey, Tom Brady. Just to show you where I was at.
All over the place in ugly blue jerseys.
Yes. I ended up at some point I've owned a jersey for every team in the league besides even like despite me saying what I just did about rooting for teams that played against the Steelers, probably because my parents would never buy me one. I never at any point owned one for the other teams in the division.
There you go. I don't know if that's okay. That's better or not. I don't know. I'll leave the fans that up to the fans. So I don't think that there was an expectation that Ben was going to be as good as he was when he was drafted. I think Phillip Rivers was probably the guy that a lot of people were talking about more than Ben in the pre-draft process. He had gone to NC State. There was a connection with Bill Cowher there. The Steelers scout Art Rooney Jr. is in Carolina and has scouted a lot of people out of there. And I think there was a lot of just momentum for Phillip Rivers being the pick, and I think people were a little bit surprised it was Ben. And I don't think that there was an expectation really before he played that he was going to become what he became. I mean, I think there was excitement. I don't think people were so sure that he was going to be a franchise quarterback, especially, coming out of Miami of Ohio, a guy that almost nobody had watched play in college at a time where, you couldn't just bring it up on ESPN Plus and watch every single one of his games if you wanted to. There's no YouTube highlights. It's very much a mystery kind of pick as opposed to a much more well-known player like Rivers. And so I don't recall there being like an insane amount of hype about the pick. I think it was fairly muted considering what he became.
Wasn't there also, and again, because in the moment, no clue, wasn't there also something with like a disagreement about who the pick should be? Didn't somebody want Sean Andrews, the guard out of Arkansas?
Yeah, I think Dan Rooney had to overrule his front office and get them to take the quarterback. So, yeah, there is that.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. And what a first round, by the way. I'm just going back, looking through it now. Yeah, unbelievable talent. But I really can't speak to, obviously, the hype
it was
that was
that rookie
him
year. You know, Tommy Maddox gets hurt against the Ravens. Ben comes in, and they were so good as a team. He wasn't that good as a rookie. You know, didn't do a whole lot as a rookie. But I think, you know, he did enough, and how good the team was that then it became a thing. I would say by midway through the rookie year. I can remember my rookie that year. I was in college, and I can remember talking to my friends, and they're saying like, "Hey, we want to go see this guy play. Like, we want to have gone to see a game in his rookie year, and because it looks like that he's going to be special, and that this team's going to be special." But like, I don't think that conversation happened until like October. You know, it wasn't like it was, you know, Sidney Crosby, for example. Like when the Penguins got him, that was like from the very moment. It was like, this guy's the savior. He's the future of the franchise. He's the next Mario Lemieux. Like very different expectations from the beginning for Ben Roethlisberger.
This could also be hard to say because, like, we're never going to know. But do you think the way that it played out with Eli refusing to play for the Chargers and then them having to make that swap, like, if Eli would have been willing to play for the Chargers, do you think it plays out in a different way? Because Ben was, like, just going back and reading, rated higher than Rivers. It was kind of surprising that Rivers went fourth overall. Like, it was almost like just that one team's preference. So do you think it was realistic to work out where it could have been Rivers in most scenarios, like had Eli been willing to play for the Chargers?
I don't know. I don't know what.
Or I guess in that case, maybe they just go with the guard, the Sean Andrews that we brought up if Ben wasn't on the board.
Yeah, I don't know what they would have done if they would have tried to trade up. There weren't a lot of other quarterback teams in that draft. The Bills took J.P. Losman later in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
But like, even if you look at like the teams that took quarterbacks late, it was not a draft with a lot of quarterbacks taken after those sort of big three guys at the top there. Matt Schaub went somewhere in the middle out of Virginia. And but you know, it wasn't a draft where a lot of quarterbacks were taken until the very end. And so I think, I don't know what they would have done if all three had been gone. Probably would have taken an offensive lineman, I would guess. You know, they were very much in a situation where it was not like they had to take a quarterback. They thought they had a unique opportunity. They don't draft that high very often. And I think they felt good about getting that opportunity, but I think everyone's intention was for Tommy Maddox to be the starting quarterback for at least another year. And so yeah, I don't know that it was like an emergency.
Mm-hmm. Thomas Brocious with a question here, and this, you know, typically he gets into more of the X's and O's stuff, the all ball knowing Thomas Brocious, but this is actually game day related. Hey friends, just bought tickets to bring my son to see the Browns game. Haven't been to Acrisure since I watched Ray Rice run all over us, and never been to a Steelers home game. Wait, so how does that work? Haven't been to Acrisure. Maybe he watched Ray Rice run all over them and then didn't want to go to another Steelers game. Like that was in Baltimore. I don't know. But anyway, do you have any advice to maximize the game day experience? All right, Thomas, here's what I'm going to say. Shoot me a message and I will make sure that this is a fantastic game day experience for you. Taking you to multiple tailgates, one in the Carnegie Science Center where a lot of the players' families hang out. I'll also be with the brother of the current Steelers kicker. You can figure that one out. That's pretty obvious who I'm talking about. I don't like to name drop on here, but I'll make sure you and your boy have a great time. Don't know how old your son is. Don't know how old you are, Thomas. But we're gonna have a great time if you hit me up before Steelers Browns.
Yeah, I'm not much for this question. I don't.
Well, you might be able to better speak to restaurants and stuff in this because I don't go up to the city a whole ton to eat or anything like that. So I don't know the surrounding area.
Yeah, there's a lot of restaurants on the North Shore now, on the main drag there between PNC Park and Acrisure Stadium. Several of which I think are pretty good. I don't know, what you're into, but I don't really think you can go wrong eating in that stretch there.
Maybe you want to try some surf and turf on a stone. Some steak on a stone.
Yeah, there you go.
Mike's Beer Barn.
That's right across from the left field gate of PNC Park. So there's definitely a lot there. As far as like other things, if you're trying to like make a day of it, I always think the morning of a game, the Strip District is where to go. Like if you're in the city and you're trying to like feel the game day vibes, like downtown early in the morning can be a little bit sleepy. And sure, there'll be people there tailgating pretty early, especially if it's a 1 o'clock kick. But I feel like if you want to like get up at 9 a.m. and like go feel Pittsburgh getting ready for a big game, go to Kelly O's or go to Pamela's in the Strip and get breakfast, and then go walk up Smallman and buy your knockoff T-shirts. And that's how I feel like that's where the energy of the city is in the morning before a game.
Back before my extended period of sobriety here, there was a morning before a Steelers game where I was going to Pamela's, and I'll tell you what, there's a trash can that got the worst of me right outside of Pamela's before I went and had breakfast. So I'm a big fan of Pamela's, by the way. I'm not holding that against them. That was on me. It was not related to Pamela's food. It was before I ate. So, but I definitely would co-sign Pamela's. I'm not necessarily the biggest person for this. I've done it once. I don't think it's something like everybody has to do necessarily, but like there's a lot of people that will, again, vouch for this being an experience you must do in Pittsburgh, the Incline. Like, I don't know what your thoughts are on that. I see everybody all the time say, hey, if you're coming to Pittsburgh.
It's a thing to do.
It's one of the things of all time.
The view from up there is spectacular. There's no question about that. And you can also
you just go to like Mount Washington,
if you don't want to. Pittsburgh's a difficult city to drive around, so I understand people, especially people from out of town, not wanting to drive all over the place. So if you're parked on the North Shore and you just want to leave your car there, you can take the T to Station Square and then take the incline up to Mount Washington, taking the great view. There's some cool places up there as well, in terms of like restaurants and things like that. So yeah, it's worth doing. The fountain is off, but also if you don't want to park on the North Shore where it's expensive and you do want to park downtown, I like to walk across the Fort Duquesne Bridge there. You have to walk through the park of Point State Park to get to the ramp. It's pretty nice.
And also, Thomas, while you're there, go. I've seen a bunch of people post them. You got to get a selfie with the big sign that's up for the NFL draft outside of Acrisure Stadium as well that they got there.
Yeah.
Last one here. Do you guys think that when every team does play an international game every year, the way that you've talked about Ireland, Dortmund, and Mexico, that those would be three places they just rotate every third year? Or do you think it'll be primarily Ireland with the other two just in the near future one time?
I think they will end up playing. I don't know. I think they'll end up playing as a road team in Mexico.
Oh, okay.
That's my guess.
All right. So I was taking that differently as well. I thought you were saying
think they'll play as a road team in Mexico, and then because they have some serious specificity with their partnerships in the other two places. Like they have really done like a lot of boots on the ground work to build the relationships to host those games and have like sponsors for things and this marketing partnership with BVB, and they have this marketing partnership in Dublin and obviously the heritage in Dublin. And like, I think they're a little better set up to host games in those places. Not that they couldn't host a game in Mexico City, because they could. I don't think it would be as good as the other two for them in terms of, we talked about like trying to capture an audience. They already have a big Mexican audience. And I think that's, to me, what I think it would be. Steelers playing Mexico City is about like throwing a bone to the enormous Mexican Steelers fan base that already exists and has always existed, or has existed from the 70s. Whereas I feel like the other two are more about the team actually working to cultivate a new audience. And I think that's probably something that's a more of a priority for the team when it comes to where they want to host games.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I mean, my not knowing that I know that like Dortmund came, there's the partnership stuff there. I guess my thought was, before you said all of that, they'll play in like hosting in Mexico, hosting in Dortmund, but like Ireland would really be where they, like you're saying, boots on the ground, really start to build that thing out. But maybe Dortmund's just as much in that conversation, and it is just as an away team in Mexico. I don't know. Be interesting to see. Clearly,
they
this
also
is
need the NFL. So the NFL is working through the cities in Germany, right? And so, like, when does the NFL decide that that's the right time to go to Dortmund? Like that's a whole separate discussion that the Steelers aren't really a part of. And so I could see. So the Steelers had to give up a home game between 2021 and 2028. This was their home game. So starting in 2029, their 8-year cycle starts over again. And that is also, the odd years will be the years they will be giving up a home game. So the NFL has played games in Munich, games in Frankfurt, and one game in Berlin so far in Germany. So by 2029, is the NFL ready to go to Dortmund? Or do they have other priorities? Do they want to go to Cologne? Do they want to go to, I don't know, somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
Dortmund and Cologne are actually very close to one another, but or is that the time they want to do that? And so I think that's a question.
Don't you feel like, though, like that?
What happens with Mexico in the interim? Yeah. Like, because there's a backlog of games now to be played in Mexico. And so I think what you're going to, and there are a lot of teams with Mexican marketing rights. So I think you're going to see a lot of games once they get the stadium opened in Mexico, where it's teams it'll be two teams that both have Mexican marketing rights playing against one another. One will technically be the home team, but it'll be two teams that both want to play there. I think because they're so backed up. I think 11 or 12 teams have Mexican marketing rights. They haven't been able to play there since 2022. So, I mean, that's supposed to be an annual game. So that's, 6 teams backed up, and who knows if we're even getting one in 2026. So I could definitely see that playing out where the Steelers the NFL decides to put the Steelers in Mexico as an away team, and then decide about 2029 whether it's going to be Germany or if it's going to be Ireland again.
So, like, I guess my feel for the Dortmund thing was just because, like, that seed was kind of planted. I kind of felt like it had already had, like, I don't know that, like, backing is the right word, but, like, the thought that was going to be,
it'll happen. It'll happen. Yeah. It's just a question of the order of operations. The Steelers were supposed to go to Mexico before they went to Ireland, but then the stadium construction happened, and that, threw that plan off, and then Ireland became more of a priority. And so, obviously the stadium isn't an issue in Dortmund, but the NFL in Germany, and they're also sort of incumbent on, like, let's say the NFL goes to Germany. They've had I think 6 games in 4 years, just 5 games in 4 years, something like that. And let's say, okay, so they're going to Berlin this year. Let's say next year, they're going to go to, I don't know, pick 2 other German cities, Essen and Bonn. I don't know. And those games just bomb, right? Like they don't sell any tickets and it's a disaster. Well, then maybe the enthusiasm for Germany will dry up and the NFL will want to pivot to a different direction. You know, there's a lot of moving parts here that aren't necessarily in the team's control.
Yeah. All very interesting. Good stuff. Appreciate the questions, as always, from the community, both YouTube and getting the stuff via DMs, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, however you want to get a hold of us. We'll take questions from whatever avenue you want to give them to us. Alan, continue the conversation tomorrow. Until then, tell the people they can find you.
Hey, Saunders _PGH on X, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. PGH Steelers Now sites account, SteelersNow.com. Go there, read the words so I can get paid. Sign up for SN Plus, and you get all the best stuff from me, DB, the rest of the Steelers Now team. Plus, you get access to our members-only live streams once a month. We just had it on Monday. It is archived. If you sign up today, you can go back and watch it. And then there'll be another one coming up in October, plus ad-free reading at SteelersNow.com, which is great. Smitty, we have 4 new subscribers.
Well, that's great, because I was just about to say, I've seen Carlos Kennedy's name sitting down there for far too long.
We'll put 2 in now, and then we'll maybe put the other 2 in later. We've got Kevin Doherty and Brady Sass, SASS. So there you go.
I think I know Brady from social media. All right. And who was the other? Kevin Doherty?
Kevin Doherty, yeah.
Or do I want to take a chance on spelling that myself? All right, I'm going to type it out. Do I know the way that it just sounds like, or?
Daugherty.
Yep. See, that was what I started to do, and then I was like, I shouldn't have second guessed it.
So appreciate you, Kevin, Brady, and we'll get the other 2 on here later in the week. How about that?
Okay. Yep. Shout out to Brady and Kevin. I also just realized how I'm going to start doing the Get in the Van. Tomorrow, you're going to hear it. You're going to hear a new way of working that into the equation, and it won't be on the outro. I'll say that right now. It's going to be on the intro to the podcast. So look forward to that. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, drop some comments for us. And the reason Alan didn't mention anything about the subscribers, went up, went down, ended up being back to the exact same number that we were on during yesterday's episode.
Did you read about Richard Ziegler since yesterday? Though?
Oh, no. I'm going to, as soon as we finish up here. I'm going to actually type it in my phone right now, and then I'll read about it after we finish. But anyways, if you're listening somewhere else, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from, be sure to leave a 5-star review and subscribe over there. Just search Steelers Afternoon Drive. Do the same thing on TikTok, and then hit me up everywhere. Zachary Smith, PGH, Alan Saunders, and myself. Thanks for jumping in. Take another ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive.